Hello there, kia ora. No doubt you've heard a bit about the budget blowout from the government, the extra $800 million it's going to cost for them to implement the return of tax deductibility for property investors on the interest payments that they make. And this is actually a really fascinating thing to look at for a number of reasons. Like the actual cost of this is nearly $3 billion, which was also what the Council of Trade Unions told them it was going to be before the election, and they were just like, no, we've fully costed everything and we're actually prepared for any kind of challenges the last government's left us, so it doesn't actually matter how bad the books are. But apparently it does, even though the books weren't actually bad. Because everything that this government does is to pay for tax cuts for the landlords and for multi-millionaires. So it doesn't actually show the books being all that bad. It shows that they're really bad at prioritizing how they spend their money. Now, the idea of bringing back this tax deductibility is something that was in the coalition agreement and that National and ACT both campaigned on. So it's not a surprise that they're doing this. At the same time, IRD actually said when this law was first proposed to remove that tax deductibility, it was not a good idea. They were really concerned about how much it was going to impact house prices, because there has to be a bit of a golden zone here between making sure prices don't drop too far, because then people who've got long-term loans, they've basically got more debt than they can handle, and it's definitely not good for them. But there did need to be something that was done because, well, property investors outnumbered the people who are actually first home buyers, and well, it doesn't feel like the kind of New Zealand that we want to live in. Growing up to own your own house has always been one of those Kiwi dreams. And so when property investors are taking over the market like that, it becomes really problematic. And so this law change that the Labour Party brought in did actually have an effect on dropping property prices. And at the same time, we saw an increase in the number of first home buyers. And that's what it was aimed to do, along with moving the bright line test from 2 years to 10 years, which meant that people were far less likely to buy a property, sit on it, and then flip it to make a profit. What we were seeing was a slight increase in the number of housing stock going onto the market, but at the same time, we saw more home buyers buying it over people who are investing in property, but people still investing in property for rentals. And we will always need a rental property market. But when it comes to the actual budgeting behind this, that's where the problems really occur, because the money that this government is spending on this, close to $3 billion, that's how much money is needed to upgrade our inter-island ferry infrastructure, including the ferries and the places that they park. That is a huge amount of funds. It works out to be something like 350 new school buildings, which is huge. And the budget blowout itself, the $800 million extra that was announced yesterday, well, that's enough to do the schools in lunches in schools program for 3 years. That's a lot of money for tax cuts for landlords. Now, don't get me wrong, landlords do actually pay tax on their income while they're doing things, but when it comes to tax fairness, well, we're not rated particularly well. We're one of the only countries in the world, for example, that don't have a capital gains tax. So it is a really unfair system at the moment, and it's not likely to change any time in the next 3 years. But at the same time, what the government is doing is returning to what it was before 2020, when we had a housing crisis and there were far too many people looking for rental properties and far few rental properties for them to be able to look into. I'm sure this is going to end really, really well.